we can start with our prayers. And the prayer is also there on the screen. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam.
Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam.
Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Shankaram.
Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram
Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam.
Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam
Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha.
Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha
Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam.
Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam
Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine.
Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine
Vyoma Vadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha.
Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha
Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Veeryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadetamastu Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Harim Paramanandam.
Shri Harim Paramanandam.
Trying to find it, Upadeshtaramishwaram.
Upadeshtaramishwaram.
Page 22. Vyapakam sarvalokanam.
Vyapakam sarvalokanam.
Karanam tam namamyaham.
Karanam tam namamyaham.
Page 33. Aparokshanubhutirvai.
Aparokshanubhuti
Prochyate moksha siddhaye.
Prochyate moksha siddhaye.
Sadbhireva prayatnena.
Sadbhireva prayatnena.
Vikshaniya muhurmuhu.
Vikshaniya muhurmuhu.
Okay. Now we come to verse number 3 on page 44. Swavarnashrama dharmena.
Swavarnashram dharmena.
Sadhanam prabhavet pumsam.
Tapsa.
Tapasa haritoshanat.
Tapsa haritoshanat.
Sadhanam prabhavet pumsam.
Sadhanam prabhavet pumsam.
Vairagyadi chatuштayam.
Vairagyadi chatuштayam.
Today I actually made a summary. So in this verse 3, we are being told that we will get antakarna shuddhi of vairagyadi, chatushtayam, sadhana chatushtayam, etc. We will get such antakarna shuddhi if we follow three things: dharma, tapas, and pleasing Hari, pleasing the Lord. Okay. So here dharma is referring to varna ashrama dharma. But nowadays it doesn't exist. What to do? So good to understand one's own prakriti. Okay. What is the nature of one's mindset? What is one's inclination? Iti. Do you like study and teaching? Do you like justice and administration? Do you like to make profit, lots of money? Iti. Or do you like service? Iti. So depending upon what is your natural inclination, you pursue what is your natural inclination in keeping with universal dharma. Because nowadays the varnashrama system is not really existing. So then what to do? Do what is required in the situation. As and when, we have all so many roles to play. So as and when whatever the role is, let us follow that role and do whatever is required in the situation. Now, so to follow this kind of dharma, what does it require? It requires tapas. Tapas means what? Restraint. Okay, restraint from what? Restraint from what I like to do if it is not in keeping with dharma. Okay, so restraint to check tendency to indulge also. Sometimes we have tendency to indulge. Nowadays we indulge a lot in YouTube and whatnot, social media, I think. And so to do what I like at the cost of what is right, that also restraint from that. So what does restraint involve? It involves discipline. It involves focus. Most of all, it involves clarity of one's purpose. That once that clarity is there, then we can think about focus and discipline. Okay, so the same thing, dharma, doing what the situation calls for within one's role, within one's dharma. Okay. So we can ask ourselves the question, this is all easy for us. But if we are teaching it to somebody, then we can ask ourselves the question, am I performing this role for satisfying my ego? Okay. Or am I doing it for pleasing Ishvara? Why do I do something? Iti. Because Ishvara is in the form of the whole Srishti. Ishvara is in the form of my role also. Ishvara is in the form of what is expected from me, my duty also. Iti. So what is my motivation behind what I do? Is it to satisfy my own ego in various different ways, iti, or is it for pleasing Ishvara? So when we understand that Ishvara sab kuch hai, Ishvara is the whole, then this attitude which Shastra keeps talking about, the attitude of offering to Ishvara, that becomes very natural because everything is Ishvara, so it becomes natural. Now, Swamiji took tapas in a very nice way. He took it as minimum consumption, minimum demand or minimum consumption. No overindulgence in anything. Then Swamiji said dharma involves sacrifice or letting go. Letting go of what? My personal likes and dislikes, if that is standing in the way of doing what I should be doing. And he makes a very beautiful statement there that the needs of the one to whom I am duty bound becomes more important than my own needs. This is the most important line of seva. Seva is when we do seva, किसी की भी सेवा करते हैं. So this is a very important thing, that I am duty bound. I have committed to this seva. Therefore, what that other person's need is more important than mine. Actually, in hospitals, you can see this a lot, you know. There will be one old person sitting in the hospital bed. They want to go badly to the bathroom. Okay? They ring the bell. They can't go on their own. They need somebody's help. They ring the bell. नर्स नहीं आएगी, आधा घंटा के बाद आएगी. So there, the attitude of seva, no, is not understood. Huh? Maybe they are all got too much, you know, too few nurses and too much work. I don't know what the thing is, but this is a very often a common problem which we see. Okay. Okay. Then Swamiji said, tapas consume minimum, dharma contribute maximum. Okay. Swamiji's maxim is contribute maximum. In whatever form one can. ऐसे नहीं कि हमको बाहर जाके we have to contribute. No. In whatever form one is able to. Even at home, if you're not doing anything, at least contribute with a smiling face, you know. Be there without complaining. ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, तुम ऐसे हो. Huh? Instead of that, we can contribute by being nice. See? Then he took up the word Haritoshana. Haritoshana means pleasing the Lord. So whenever I do something, ask myself, because Lord is sitting there as the Sakshi. He's the Antas Sakshi. Antas Sakshi means the inner witness. So when I'm doing anything, may I ask the question, you know, may what I am doing be pleasing to the Lord. Eh? So may the Lord be pleased with what I am about to do. Will the Lord be pleased with what I am about to do, whether it is in thought, word, or deed? Iti. Then Swamiji pointed out, how will the Lord be pleased? Because Lord is the Lord of everybody. Everybody is like his children, and therefore ahimsa. I found that very beautiful, you know. कि where Swamiji took the example कि हम सब उनके बच्चे हैं, तो कोई भी पेरेंट को क्या पसंद होगा कि आप उनके सब बच्चे को अच्छी तरह से उनके साथ पेश करो. So Lord, ahimsa towards all will definitely please the Lord. Eh? Then Swamiji again said another thing under this Haritoshana, serving the world as Ishvara. So when we are doing seva, look upon whoever you are doing seva to as Ishvara. Iti. And of course, specific acts of worship. जो हम पूजा करते हैं, कीर्तन करते हैं, अभिषेक करते हैं, जपा करते हैं. All this are special acts of worship are also under Haritoshana. And this verse says, when this dharma, tapas and haritoshana are there in our lives, then automatically the sadhana chatushtayam will come. Okay? Automatically it will come. I thought I will share with you something of Swami Paramarthanandji that I found. So let me see. No, don't look at this first page. Here. Okay? So he has certain acronyms. So Ishvara is ESNS. I will share with you this. ESNS. What is ESNS? Eka, one. S, he is the Sara, the substratum. He is N, he is Nitya. And he is S, he is Satyam. Huh? Nice, no? ESNS. Ishvara is ESNS. Then about the Karma Yoga path of life, naturally Swamiji says proper actions with proper attitude. So proper actions means dharmic actions in keeping with universal dharma and in keeping with samanya dharma also. And what is the attitude? Ishwararpana buddhi and prasada buddhi. These are the two attitudes. Then very nicely he gives an acronym RIDE. Karma Yoga means RIDE, R-I-D-E. Reducing adharmic activities, increasing dharmic activities, dedicating all actions to Ishvara, and experiencing all karma phala as prasada. Nice, no? R-I-D-E. I liked it very much. And so what is the benefit of karma yoga? They are 4 S. 4 S's. Increasing self-esteem, increasing serenity, that is samatvam, and then having harmony with everything, which means the Pancha Mahayagnas. Okay. I think I shared with you an article on Pancha Mahayagna.
Yes, yes.
And self-growth. Right? So just looking at the Pancha Mahayagnas, they were Rishi Yagna. Just quickly going over it, offering to sages and seers who are study and teaching, acknowledging our debt to them. Deva Yagna, worship of Ishvara. Pitra Yagna, homage to our ancestors, including our parents, okay, living parents, taking care of them. Bhuta Yagna, offering to all living beings, and Manushya Yagna. Right? And then after that, on page 44, no, not page 44, sorry, at the end of this verse, which is page 52. Or let's go to 51, that when our mind becomes pure, these qualifications will automatically come. Then Swamiji says here at the end, last line of page 51, the qualifications are Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka, Sampatti, and Mumukshutva. Okay. And then, of course, what is Viveka, etc. So here now, here in this book, Shankaracharya has taken Vairagya first. Usually we will say Viveka, no? But he is taking Vairagya first. Okay. Now let's look at this. We go to part 2, Sadhana Chatushtaya on page 53. Brahmadisthavaranteshu
Brahmadisthavaranteshu
Vairagyam Vishayeshvanu
Vairagyam Visheshvana
Yathaiva Kakavishthayam
Yathaiva Kakavishthayam
Vairagyam Tadhi Nirmalam.
Vairagyam Tadhi Nirmalam.
Yeah, I'll just read it again. Brahmadisthavaranteshu Vairagyam Vishayeshvanu Yathaiva Kakavishthayam Vairagyam Tadhi Nirmalam. Then, reading each meaning. Brahmadi stavara anteshu vishayeshu. So, the vishayeshu, if you see Vairagya stavara anteshu, and then the last word on first line is vishayeshu. So, that's been taken. Brahmadi stavara anteshu vishayeshu. So, towards all things, beginning from Brahmaji and down to a blade of grass. Okay. So, Vishayeshu is all things. Towards all things, starting from Adi, starting from Brahma and down up to a blade of grass. Okay. Anu, with regard to all of them. Vairagyam. What is Vairagyam? Dispassion. Freedom from attachment. Iti. Yatha eva, as indeed like Kakavishtayam, towards the excretion of a crow. Iti. Tathi, that is indeed Vairagyam Nirmalam. That is indeed pure Vairagyam. Okay. Pure freedom from attachment. Iti. So when one has dispassion or freedom from attachment towards all things, from Brahmaji to a blade of grass, just as one would have towards the excretion of a crow, that is indeed pure dispassion. My goodness, our teacher, this thing, our Shastra, no, pakka hai. The meaning of Vairagyam. The meaning of Vairagyam has to be understood. The mental state of Viraga is called Vairagya. Viragasya bhavaha Vairagyam. Footnote number 37. Viraga is that from which raga, passion or attachment, has gone away. Vigataha ragaha yasmat saha viragaha. The same thing has been said in Sanskrit. That from which attachment or fascination or passion for something has gone away is said to be viraga. And the state of viraga is vairagya. So towards all things, now why should we have viraga? That means, why do we have raga towards all things? Because we look upon them as sources of happiness. That is why we have raga. Iti, we look upon them as sources of happiness. So we will first, before going to Swamiji's this thing, we will look at something more. Okay. Why do we have raga for something or attachment or even dvesha, If we look upon something as a source of happiness, then we have raga towards it. If we look upon something as a source of unhappiness, we have dvesha towards it. Both of them come under attachment only. So dvesha we will have. And both of them are coming from our imagination that something is a source of our happiness or our unhappiness. So let's look at the
Guruma, on screen it is showing okay.
now it's come. Limitations or characteristics of object derived happiness. Okay. So let's look at this. The first limitation, or not first, let's call it just limitation. I don't know in which order I've written. Bandhakatva. Bandhakatva means cause of attachment. It causes attachment and therefore it causes dependence. Bandhanam. It causes dependence. That's why bandhakatva. So the experience of happiness from objects leads to attachment, raga. And if it is unhappiness, it will lead to dvesha. Then what happens? When this kind of attachment is there, then there is suffering. Because why? The mind then is constantly trying to acquire that thing again. मुझे फिर से चाहिए gulab jamun. I got so much happiness from gulab jamun. Then I want gulab jamun again and again. Then I will have to make the effort for it also. Iti. And mind is always agitated thinking about gulab jamun. Iti. So it will try to seek it or it will try to retain that. But in life, what are we able to retain? Everything is subject to time, no? Some are there for shorter period of time, some are with us for longer period of time, but everything is subject to time. So we will keep trying to retain something, and so the mind stays in a constant state of agitation. Therefore, we get pain when that object is not there, and this is why it causes bandhana. The second is anityatvam. It is temporary or transient. Iti. That, of course, we all know happiness from objects is fleeting. It comes and goes. So, do you say happiness from people? What would we say for that? Objects, okay, theek hai, gulab jamun, I can understand it is fleeting. What about objects? What about people? Will that come under object?
खुश तो होते हैं कोई बंदा आता है तो we feel very happy.
But
कितनी देर आप just
हाँ, तो बताओ, मैं सुनने के लिए तैयार हूँ.
That also gives us short period happiness.
But a longer period.
So
I
what
mean,
is the
like
Yeah.
supposing
what is the
short.
question, Guru Maharaj?
You see, if you have gulab jamun, it's a very short period, right? Then supposing you get a new car, that also is a short, maybe it will last
Short.
1 week, if at all. Like that, different things give us a sense of happiness, but the time periods are different. Yeah, including people. People also, we may have lot of happiness from person, but eventually we may have to face the end of that relationship in the form of the person going away. Okay, so that is what is being said here. Everything is transient, anityam here. So the thing itself is anityam, then naturally the happiness you derive from that thing is also going to be anityam iti. Yeah, everything is subject to change, and therefore happiness derived from it will also be anityam. This chapter on vairagyam is a tough chapter for everybody. Then it is atriptikaratvam. It doesn't give us complete satisfaction. Always it's finite. हमें 24/7 happiness तो मिलता ही नहीं है कभी भी. No, because it's all object derived happiness. Nothing will give us 24/7 happiness. Firstly, our mood only may change. अभी आई वांट गुलाब जामुन, वो गुलाब जामुन 5-10 खा लिए, फिर मुझे लगता है बहुत हो गया, and now my attention will change to something else. I want to see a good movie, कि चलो मैं मूवी देख लेता हूँ, या किसी को जाके मिलती हूँ, कि मैं एक रिलैक्सिंग ड्राइव के लिए चली जाती हूँ इति. They can be different, your mood only changes iti. And so atriptikaratvam, we don't get complete satisfaction. The total satisfaction is never there. What is our inherent nature? Our inherent nature, our swabhavika nature is ananda. What kind of ananda? Limitless ananda. Therefore, anything which is giving limited ananda cannot satisfy us. It will not satisfy us. Third is savisheshatvam, conditional. Means object oriented happiness. Oops. Okay. Savisheshatvam. It gives conditional happiness. Iti. Naturally, all our happiness is dependent on conditions. So many conditions have to be fulfilled before we can feel happy. Iti. No? That object and then specific conditions, situation has to be like this. Everything has to fall into place. Then our mind will decide that now I can be happy with this particular object or situation. Iti. And if the condition changes, no, or the object is lost, then what happens? Happiness also gayab ho gaya iti. Very common condition for all of us, especially the ladies, is servant. जिस दिन servant नहीं आया, there is a big problem. Iti. Okay, so there can be. So when this kind of thing happens, object is gone, or for whatever reason the conditions, then we may have fear, we may have anxiety, we may be very unhappy. Iti. So happiness is not always available, it's very conditional. Happiness from object, okay? Inherent happiness, if we recognize, it is always there. Iti. Then comes a very important point that happiness from objects is not intrinsic to the object. It is not that the object has got happiness in it. It is my imagination that is seeing that object has got happiness in it. If object had happiness in it, then it should give me happiness all the time. No? But if my mind is occupied elsewhere, you remember in beginning classes of Vedanta, we do all of this. कि अभी I was very happy, मेरे सामने वो आइसक्रीम आ गया, मैं खाने वाली हूँ, आहा, feeling that happiness. Phone call came, and it is a phone call about the death of a close person. Now that ice cream, it tastes like dust in the mouth, Iti. It is no more a source of. But if the happiness was actually in that ice cream, then it should give me happiness whenever I take it, but it does not. Iti. Other thing is, it should give happiness to everyone at all times, but it does not. Iti. Okay? Instead, what is the truth? That this Ananda is our own nature. Okay. That we will see separately. Okay. Actually, I don't know if you all remember this from beginning of with Vedanta classes, we will say this. Okay, what happens is when there is desire in the mind for anything, whatever it may be, mind is very agitated. When mind is agitated, it is not having access to the inherent swabhavika nature of Ananda, which is the self. Because mind is agitated, now it is looking like that, outside, that I want this, I want this, I want this, only then I can be happy. Now, when it gets that object, that mind becomes calm, the agitation comes down, the agitation goes away, in fact, completely. At that moment, the swabhavika happiness of the self is manifest as the happiness vritti. And what happens? We misattribute and we think that happiness came from the object. But actually, the happiness we experienced was our own happiness. Iti. Only thing is, we projected it onto the object. Iti. Anyway, so we make mistake and attribute to the object. Then last one is, of course, that happiness from objects leads to Trishna, will lead to more and more desire iti, to get, and that of course sets up agitation in the mind, which sets up suffering iti, and so a lot of craving will be there. When the desire is fulfilled also, then there is anxiety कि अभी इसको फिर से कब चला जाएगा या हमको फिर से कब मिलेगा iti, and then new desires come iti, and that leads to more and more problem. Okay. So, Vedanta now, we'll ask Bhatia uncle. I don't know if you're able to read this, Bhatia uncle. Very big type I put it.
Yeah, it is.
In a sense, Vedanta teaches that true, lasting, and unconditional happiness, Ananda, is not to be found in the changing world of objects, but is the very nature of our true self. The pursuit of happiness through objects is like trying to quench thirst by drinking salt water. It only increases the thirst and binds us further. The path to real happiness lies in understanding and recognizing that self is Ananda.
Yeah. And now we will come back to our lesson, and Bhatia uncle can continue to read from page 54, the paragraph we commonly translate Vairagya.
We commonly translate Vairagya as dispassion. What is specifically meant, however, is freedom from raga, attachment, which also requires freedom from dvesha, aversion. Rag and dvesh are like two sides of a coin. They always come together. When I have raga for given thing, I am surely going to have dvesha for something else.
Continue, uncle.
The problem of attachment. Attachment arises when I look upon something as a source of happiness and security. Happiness and security are very important to me. Every creature loves them, and the reason is very simple. Happiness and security are in fact the nature of the self. That is why love for them is natural. I am born with attachment to happiness and security, and an aversion to unhappiness and insecurity or fear. At the same time, everybody seems to have different sets of likes and dislikes. This is because my attachments and aversions depend upon the perceptions of what make me happy. There is natural attachment for what I look upon as a source of happiness or security, and an aversion to what I look upon as a source of unhappiness, insecurity, or fear. My love for happiness creates a love for the source of happiness. This may be an object, a person, a situation, some accomplishment, or whatever I look upon as a source of happiness or security. There being a natural need for self gratification, every living being and every human being in particular constantly seeks this gratification at the level of senses, emotion, intellect, ego, and the self.
That
We
one,
have
just 1 minute, uncle. If you have any idea what Swamiji means here by self, I put a question mark. Up to ego, I understood. But when he says self, what does he mean? Like Atman doesn't need to seek happiness. Ego needs to seek happiness, certainly, because ego has identification. So I was confused by this word self here. That's all. I just thought I'll ask Bhatia uncle if any other interpretation he can give. Huh?
अपने आप को आनंद मिलता है. I get feeling pleased.
No, he says the need for self gratification. Here Swamiji is talking about the need for self gratification.
हाँ तो need यही तो है
इधर
ना.
जब ईगो बोला है तो ego has need for self gratification. Atma does not have need for self gratification.
But I don't think
तो
Atma.
इसलिए
I am
आत्मा
Atma.
को self हम बोल रहे हैं.
I am not Atma. I am
That is
body.
the ego, na?
That is
जब
ego.
the word, when the word ego is used, then you don't need to use the word self. That was
Yes.
my only contention. कि एक बार आपने ego बोल दिया, तो फिर self को अलग से बोलते तो फिर हमें लगता आत्मा को ही वो refer कर रहे हैं. पर Atma doesn't have need for self gratification. So I will try to ask Swamiji if I get a chance. Very difficult to get hold of him. Huh?
We get all these emotions, intellect.
We have different koshas.
हाँ, अनुभव आ जाता है.
But ignorant people will think that ego and self, because he thinks that I am that self. It is not ego. He thinks that way, na? Because he is ignorant about all that. Self is good for self.
Ego
Ego of the self. No,
it's only ego.
No,
the self. If you write only self, then it is okay. Then we know it means ego. But when you write the word ego and self, then there's a question mark. Anyway, uncle, you can continue with we have different koshas.
We have different koshas, levels of personality, and at every level we seek gratification. Whatever we look upon as a source of fulfilling that gratification then becomes an object of attachment and very important to us. This is how we become very dependent upon many things for our comfort, our sense of security and well-being. This dependence is bondage. It is said that sarvam parvasham dukham. Dependence causes misery.
Next portion, I think this was clear, no? Next portion can be read by Anita, examining our conclusions.
Yes. Examining our conclusions. Vairagya extricates me from the dependence. This is accomplished by Viveka, examining my conclusion that a given object is source of happiness. Normally, we do not scrutinize these conclusions, but we must ask ourselves, when I look upon something or somebody as source of happiness or security, are they really able to provide me with that happiness? We may feel very happy in the presence of such a such person, but does the happiness comes from there? All of this needs to be examined. This is where discernment and discrimination comes in. Even though we feel some happiness with someone or something in a given situation, it comes at a great cost because we must make them comfortable in order for them to make us comfortable. For anything or anyone who gives us happiness, there is a price, and that price is usually more than what we get from them. So true. Ultimately, Lord Krishna says, you don't get anything. Here he
संस्पर्शजा
Samparsha
भूताः
bhogaha
दुःखयोनयः एवते.
dukh yonaya evate.
You
Bhoga,
can
the
read
pleasure.
the 1 minute, 1 minute. So
For
you read the
footnote.
meaning of that verse, which is given in the footnote. 40.
Okay. Your Manu Samriti.
40.
40.
40.
Those enjoyments that are born of contact between the sense organs and desirable objects are the sources of pain alone.
So once
Bhagavad
again, just listen. Ye hi samsparsha ja bhogaha dukkha yonaya evate.
Evate.
So they are all dukkha yonis. Okay.
Bhoga, the pleasure that comes through contact or association with something or somebody, is always only a dukkha yoni, sources of pain, because it causes pain when we are separated from it. We have to pay a price for the association, and then we must pay a price for retaining the association, because what comes has a tendency to leave. Whatever comes wants to go away, and we want to hold on to that. So it is a great struggle. One's whole life is spent in this struggle. That is why Lord Krishna says that all external sources of happiness and security are nothing but dukkha yoni. These dukkha yonis, sources of pain and sorrow. Moreover, they do not give you happiness even when they appear to do so. Since the only source of happiness is yourself, consciousness, nothing inert or unconscious can give you happiness. There is only one thing that is conscious, and that is you. Therefore, Atma or consciousness is the only source of happiness.
Okay.
दुख
So
बाहर
stop.
से नहीं
Stop.
मिलेगा.
Stop. हाँ 1 minute. तो इसीलिए एक स्लाइड भी है and then we'll conclude. छोटा सा स्लाइड है. So yeah, the belief that happiness is derived from the objects is baseless. Why? First, we recognize that Ananda is our real nature. Objects are inert. If objects had happiness inside them, if they had intrinsic happiness, then we saw that already. The same object will make everyone happy all the time. And the object would always bring happiness regardless of our state of mind. Then we saw this point also, that the mind's role, what it does. So it creates desire inside us because we think that object is a source of happiness. So then the mind is in a state of agitation. When it is in a state of agitation, it doesn't feel the happiness which is there. Then when you gain the object, you have a moment of calm. And in that moment of calm, you feel very fulfilled and you feel very happy. But that happiness is actually a reflection of your own happiness, because it's the happiness vritti which is reflecting from your own happiness, because mind has become calm. And then you attribute that happiness to the object. Okay. So this kind of misattribution will make you think that no, the happiness has come from the object iti, and then you keep chasing that. You will keep contents have the desire. So, Sony uncle, are you able to read the screen?
Oh yes, Vedanta teaches that your belief that something gives me happiness is based on a profound misunderstanding of the true source of happiness. It is not about acquiring things, but about understanding that happiness is your natural inherent state and that the fulfillment of desire merely provides a temporary mental calm that allows this already existing bliss,
Ananda. Yeah.
to manifest. The
Hmm.
path of lasting, the path to lasting happiness, therefore, is not through the external acquisition, but through self-knowledge and the realization of your, I don't know what is written there.
True
True
nature.
Your true nature. Yes.
Yeah. So with that, we will conclude this class and we will go to rest of Vairagya. Vairagya we should do in small doses, you know. नहीं तो क्या होता है स्टूडेंट्स को वेदांत से वैराग्य आ जाती है
धक्का लगता है
इसलिए अगले बार हम वैराग्य को और परस्यू करेंगे ओके ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सत्कमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ ॐ